Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are St. Louis.
The Cardinals have yet to lose on consecutive days early on in April. The Pittsburgh Pirates, the St. Louis Cardinals in an early season showdown for first place in the NL Central. Welcome to St. Louis Cardinals baseball. It is a three-man booth this afternoon. That's the Mad Hungarian, Al Raboski. Rick Horton will be with us. I'm Dan McLaughlin. You take a look at what the Cardinals have done thus far. Al, 14-9 to begin this season. Could be a lot better, but for the most part, pretty solid.
Well, the bullpen has had its problems, but it's really the rotation that sets the tone, and the rotation has been outstanding. All 14 wins have come from the starters. They've allowed the fewest home runs, and we are excited to see Shelby Miller once again. He is best known for that fastball, and he is really setting people, he's letting them all know that he's got a good one.
All right, it is Shelby Miller here today. He'll get that start for St. Louis. Shelby and the Cardinals take on the Pirates. It's day baseball on Fox Sports Midwest.
No, I'm okay.
It's a perfect afternoon to take home your Carlos Beltran bobblehead and maybe take in a little baseball as well. Another big crowd here at Busch Stadium. Want a great deal on Cardinals tickets? Well, fill up at Phillips 66 with 8 gallons or more now until June 30th, and receive up to 50% off on a pair of tickets to a Cardinals home game. For more information, visit cardinals.com/Phillips66. The Pirates are a half game back, and they will face a very good young right-hander for the St. Louis Cardinals. And we've been hearing so much about him for so many years. Al, that's Shelby Miller.
And he has not disappointed anybody at all. He'll be making his 5th start this year. But if you take last season when he made the 1 start and his 4 previous starts here, he has the lowest ERA by a Cardinal since 1921. He's been outstanding in his 2 starts at Busch Stadium. He's pitched 13 1/3 innings, allowing just 1 hit in each game.
Jeff Locke is a lefty. He'll go against Shelby Miller for the Pirates. Pittsburgh's minor league pitcher of the year. Good matchup here today. Pitch this season? We hope so. That is Jason Mott moments ago. Meanwhile, the rest of the bullpen, part of our Toyota keys to the game. When the starters go 7 innings or more, the team is 8-1. 6 innings or less, they are 6-8. It's been a much maligned bullpen, Al Rabaski, but one bright spot has been the back end of games recently with Edward Mejica.
Sure has. He's only allowed 1 run on the season, and that was a home run. He established himself as the new Cardinal closer, picking up saves in 3 straight games in Washington. He's a bright spot, but still trouble lurks in the 7th and 8th innings.
Rubber game, the Cards and the Pirates in a special giveaway today. It's not that, it's a bobblehead. We'll talk about Carlos Beltran next.
Getting ready for game 3 of a 3-game series here this afternoon. Our BJC difference maker is the Cardinal veteran right fielder Carlos Beltran. In his last 9 games, a .389 average. In fact, 6 homers and 17 RBIs for the season. Beltran's been a force in the middle of that Cardinal lineup, including game 1 of this series, where he had home runs from both sides of the plate. Lance Lynn having a good year, won his 4th game in this series. We'll be back with more after this.
Midwest is brought to you by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. See your Mid-America Chevy dealer or log on to stlchevy.com. Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, #1 for quality tires and expert auto service. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And by Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake, just no equal. Cloudy afternoon here in downtown St. Louis. Bobblehead giveaway, and the fans come on out. The phenomenon that is a bobblehead. And today, it is Carlos Beltran. And Carlos, you don't sit on the bench when it's your bobblehead day, and he is in right field yet again. Let's take a look at the lineup for Clint Hurdle's club. The Pittsburgh Pirates, a half game back of St. Louis in the Central. Starling Marte will lead things off. Then Tabata and Jones here in the first. Gabby Sanchez, all-star a couple of years ago. Pedro Alvarez hitting below 200. Russell Martin, he's going the other way, on the rise. Brandon Inge, John McDonald, and the lefty Jeff Locke still looking for that first hit. Cardinals defense presented by Dobbs with Holiday, Robinson, and Beltran. Those 3 in the outfield. Matt Carpenter, 12 starts at second base. No errors. He had no errors at second base in spring training. Craig is at first. It's Freese and Cosma on the left side. David Freese celebrating his birthday. And Yadier Molina is behind the plate. The young righty, Rick Horton, Shelby Miller, has been impressive.
Very good his last outing against a tough Nationals team. He went 6+ innings in that game, had 8 strikeouts, averaging over a strikeout an inning. On the season, Shelby Miller has been dominating, and he's been establishing his fastball. We'll look for that in the early going.
Starling Marte will play center field today. Andrew McCutchen is on the bench, along with Travis Snyder. So a different look here for Clint Hurdle's club. Marte, though, has really provided a spark at the top of this lineup. A couple of hits in this series. He's 2 for 7, but he's been very good in first innings. And a fastball that's taken for a strike.
Marte's hit in 7 straight, 17 of his last 19 games over 350.
And the 0-1 pitch is a base hit to left. High Sox Sunday past Pete Kozma. He's got the High Sox. Marte pulled that outside pitch for a single.
You mentioned Dan been very good in the first innings. The Cardinals got him out yesterday, but he's been outstanding, leading games off for the Pirates, and he runs well. 6 stolen bases, so we'll see if he tests Yadier Molina here in the top of the first.
He is tied for second for the most hits, Marte, now with 31.
Jose Tabata was a starter last year. The addition of Snyder, he's been coming off the bench. Hitting just 175. Big gap in left center. One thing we've seen from Shelby Miller, a lot of strikes, a ton of fastballs, not many walks. He has struck out 26 in 25 innings of work. And opponents only hitting 157 against him. There's only one other pitcher wearing that Cardinal uniform that can claim a better number of the opponent's batting average, and that is the closer right now, Mejica. 156, and it's 0-2 on Tabata. Get the feeling, Rick, it's a lot of late movement on these fastballs because you don't see many centered up on Shelby Miller. A lot of defensive late swings and foul tips.
His ball jumps. He has a nice, smooth, easy delivery, and he's right at home plate, and it's a power delivery. The ball just seems to have a little extra life on it. A lot of late swings, as we see there by Tabata.
I kind of go back to when we were playing Milwaukee and Lucroy, their catcher. After Shelby pitched very well against them, he said, "Oh, you know, his fastball's straight. It's just that we can't center it." Well, that doesn't mean it's straight. That means you're getting that late movement. You're starting your swing and you're coming into the point of contact, and that ball moves away and just enough to keep you from centering that.
Crowd still filing in. Had great numbers this weekend. Friday and Saturday, well over 40,000. We're expecting that today. We're also expecting the temperatures to rise. Supposed to be beautiful beginning tomorrow. 80 degrees, and Cincinnati will be in town.
We're all ready for the warmer temperatures, and it'll be fun in that Cincinnati series. The Reds have played awful on the road this year, 1-8 on the road, and the Cardinals will finish off with them on this homestand. And it's been a good one, guys, with all the promotions that we've had this weekend. The bobblehead doll today, the ring day on Friday, and Alan Craig bat day yesterday. It really has been good for the fans, and they've shown up as always.
Best promotion is winning, and the Cardinals need this win to take another series.
Shelby would love the double play here. The 0-2 pitch gets the strikeout. Held on to by Yadi, and that fastball at 94 from Shelby Miller.
Now, what would Jonathan Lucroy say about this fastball, Al?
Well, he'll say it's straight, but Tabata might say, I missed it because it's not straight, but just powers that fastball in there. See the grip, four-seam fastball, and just upstairs there.
Plaza Tire Service replay, and it brings in Garrett Jones, 31-year-old from Tinley Park, Illinois. Garrett Jones has got very good power. 27 home runs last year. He drove in 86.
Talk about that power, and it is real, but it's been 46 at bats since the Pirates have seen it.
Only one home run this year. He's driven in 12, and he's hitting .297.
Very different Pirate lineup without McCutchen in it, and Neil Walker, who's been a big producer for them as well. He cut his hand early in this series. Pete Kozma stepped on it on a double play attempt, so he's out. And makes for a very short bench for the Pirates, and that came into play here in Game 2 yesterday.
There's a fly ball lifted into deep left center field, but with room, it's Holiday. Makes the catch Marte back to the bag at first, and there's 2 down. The other thing that we love about Shelby Miller, he pounds the strike zone. Right now, 9 pitches total here in this first inning. 8 have been strikes. Love to see that.
Hey guys, he's made 2 starts here at Busch Stadium. He's pitched a total of 13 innings. He's allowed just 1 hit in each game, no walks, and 15 strikeouts, to take your point a step further.
I think we all knew that he could be good at this level. I'm not sure we expected this good.
We had 160 strikeouts last year in 138 innings in AAA. The ERA wasn't as good, but he really came on towards the end. I think he found himself as a pitcher, and a lot of the good Cardinal arms, they all have the tools, but they have to all come together, and you have to be able to work with those tools. And I think he figured out how to turn the tools into performance.
And I think the best thing that happened for him was last year he got off to a bad start at AAA, had to figure some things out, had a good second half, and then has been rewarded with a September call-up, and now starting the season in the rotation. And he's done a great job.
You know, one of these days we're going to have to look back and see the opening day roster for the Miami Marlins from last year to this year. And much of the focus was on the trades, the big trades that they made, especially this offseason with Toronto. But there was a lot of little deals that could help out clubs. One of them, certainly for St. Louis, with Edward Mejica, who's been tremendous ever since he's come to the St. Louis Cardinals. And the other that gets kind of overlooked is Gabby Sanchez here at the plate. He was Miami's opening day starter at first base. He had done that for 3 years in a row, and then midway through the season at the deadline, Gorkys Hernandez was traded to get Sanchez, who has been a very good pinch hitter in his career.
He's really rebounding because he struggled last year too. He just went through an awful stretch, and I think to some degree the Marlins gave up on him, and the Pirates took a flyer on him. He's starting at first today.
His last 9 games batting over 500. Being able to come off the bench and provide pop, that's a big deal too.
Fastball and a strike at 92 miles an hour. 3-1. We'll see if they want to start the runner Marte.
Sanchez has gone deep in each of his last 3 starts. Hopefully that will not happen here today. How about the starters? Have only allowed 5 home runs on the year. Shelby is 3rd in the National League in ERA, 2nd in opponent's batting average.
Outfield is straight away for Gabby Sanchez. Marte off with this pitch. 2 down here in the top of the first. And a full count. And Marte, as Rick said, can run. Ball in the gap, he could score.
Well, we were talking on Friday about just how important Yadier Molina is in ways that you can't put a number on. And how many teams in the National League would Marte be standing on second base now if they were playing somebody other than the Cardinals and Yadier Molina? So it would be an RBI situation right here. And so if Sanchez is able to get a 3-2 base hit, it would be 1-0. But in this case, Marte will have a hard time scoring unless it's in the gap. But again, the value of Yadier Molina just as a scare factor.
And we'll do it again. Very early here in the season, but we take a look at the ERA leaders in the National League, and Shelby is in that top 5. Detweiler of Washington, whom the Cardinals beat. Chacin of Colorado, and then Carlos Villanueva.
How about Jake Westbrook? His ERA now is under 1 with his 6 shutout innings yesterday, and what a shame he didn't pick up career win number 100.
The 3-2 pitch. Got him. Strikeout number 2 for Shelby Miller. Cardinals coming up in the home half of the first this Sunday afternoon at Busch. At Busch Stadium, the banks of the Mississippi. Cardinals lineup: Carpenter, Beltran, and Holiday. Then it's Craig, Molina, Freeze, Robinson, Cosma, and Shelby Miller. Defense for the Pirates, different look today. Presented by Dobbs. Third start this season in right field for Jones. Marte in center, Tabataz at left. Left side of the infield is Alvarez and McDonald. Hinge and Sanchez on the right side, and Russell Martin is behind the plate. And Locke, Al, is a lefty that was their minor league pitcher of the year a season ago.
Yeah, you mentioned that. This year he's gotten off to a little bit of a decent start, 2-1. By far his best performance was his last time out against Philly. He went 6 shutout innings. One thing I noticed is 21 2/3 innings. He's allowed about a hit an inning. He's walked 11 and struck out 12.
The 7th time that we've seen Matt Carpenter in this leadoff spot. Right now he is leading the National League in runs scored with 21. Started the series on Friday night, going back-to-back in home runs with Carlos Beltran. 1 ball and 1 strike as Locke works right from the middle of the pitching rubber.
For those who may have missed it in yesterday's game, Matt Carpenter was pinch hit for in the 9th inning with the game on the line. It was kind of an odd move at the time, and we found out that he did in fact have a tweak in his oblique, but he's able to start here today. But I'm sure Cardinals will be watching him closely, Al, and we've had a couple of oblique injuries here in the early going. Travis Snyder's out for them. Matt Adams on the disabled list, so you can't afford to lose another one.
Yeah, this cold weather, it's a reflection of that.
And a ground ball hit to the right side. Flipped to Locke, and he couldn't handle it. And Carpenter is aboard. Seemed to be right there, and Locke just missed it. The lead by Sanchez, and it's an error on Locke.
I don't know about you, Rick, but we've practiced this over and over, PFP, pitcher's fielding practice, and I think Gabby Sanchez got the ball to him way too soon. He flips the ball in such a long, there's no excuse. He should have fielded it all the way. The error's on the pitcher, but I think he had enough time to maybe set up and even toss it overhand, but that's a long flip underhand.
Well, he's thinking about the base, too. He's trying to find the base and catch the ball at the same time. And, most left-handed people can't do 2 things at once.
I can attest. Working with 2 of them.
He either had to get it to him sooner or a little bit later.
And it was a little low, too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's waist high, and Locke would be the first one to tell you should have caught it. You'd prefer it to be chest high, but stepping on the bag and catching it is tough to do. Now you got to make them pay.
All right, for the 99.9% of our audience watching and some of us doing the play-by-play, I look at that flip and I say, and I'm listening to you, Al, and I'm hearing you describe this as Beltran reaches for it. Will this drop? No. Catch is made. And I'm saying to myself, well, looked to be a pretty soft toss, pretty easy play. And again, Locke should have had it. But ideally then, for our young viewers and our young pitchers and first basemen, where do you want that ball? If it's too early, if you wait too long, then you're worried about too many things as catching and getting on the bat.
Yeah, I first said too early. And I think what the point is you see where it is that he's trying to find the bag and catch the ball down at the same time. Ideally, you want it out in front of you about chest high so you can catch the ball and still look at the base and run to it.
Now it's Holiday. The check on Carpenter. They say that Locke has got a decent move, not a great one for a lefty.
And it's one of those timing plays, and as Al said, pitcher's fielding practice, PFP, is on every spring training schedule of every team in baseball, and you do it ad nauseum. I mean, the number of times you practice that timing to try to get it right. Years and years of doing that, and there is some importance, I think, with being used to the normal first baseman and the pitcher that is kind of used to whoever's playing first base and the way he feeds the ball. And again, no excuse for them not making that play, but either way, a break for the Cardinals.
It was Holiday yesterday in the first inning against A.J. Burnett. Bounced into a double play. Run scored. The Cardinals had gotten on the board against this tough right-hander in A.J. Burnett. Now Holiday with a runner at first and the lefty lock this Sunday afternoon.
Lock basically a two-pitch pitch with fastball and curveball. Fastball there be in the low 90s. Originally signed by the Atlanta Braves and came over to Pirates in that Charlie Morton deal.
Holiday reaching for it. It's a base hit into right. Carpenter stops at second. And he would have made it easily to third. And remember, he is dealing with that sore side. I'm not sure if that's the reason as to why he would stop on that, but regardless, he does, and it's first and second and one down.
I noticed him running to first base on the ball he hit to the right side, and he didn't look real free and easy doing that. So I think it is the reason. I think he's just being a little tentative right now and trying to avoid kind of airing it out. You have a side injury. There's plenty of ways you can tweak that in baseball. Throwing, hitting, and running.
Running too could do it. But I mean, he looked at the play in right field, and remember that's not that's Garrett Jones, who normally see at first base out there in right.
Here is Alan Craig.
A man in scoring position.
He's got 18 RBIs, which is first on the team. That's tied for 6th in the National League. And against the Pirates, he has been an outstanding hitter. .358 career hitter, 22 RBIs and 5 home runs. So here we go again, a chance for Alan Craig to do some damage. In on his hands, and it's 0-2.
Cardinals lead all of baseball with a .340 average with runners in scoring position, and an unbelievable major league leading .370 with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. That's why you can have the lower batting average and still be right there with the league leaders in runs scored. Timely hitting.
Here's the 0-2. John Mabry, you wonder about his style as opposed to Mark McGwire. And talking with John the other day, he said, really, I haven't tried to change anything.
He doesn't like the question about style. He believes that his job is to just get guys ready to hit the way they hit with their ability, and really he's not going to, as you say, Dan, change anything from what the Cardinals have been doing.
Here's a 1-2. Craig into center, and the catch is made. Carpenter takes third. You're talking about potentially a 1-0 lead.
And you're also talking about the theory that Mark McGwire and John Mabry preaches was exactly what Alan Craig did. Hit the ball up the middle. They'll stay on pitches a lot longer.
Here's Yadier Molina, 2 for 8 with a double in this weekend series. I do like, though, that John has talked about using video as a tool, as they want to have a quick visit here and go over what they want to do with Molina in this at bat. But Mabry also talks about, Rick, the fact that you use video, but you also stay in the dugout and watch inning by inning, because things do change. And sometimes I think we see guys get too reliant on video.
Not a big fan of video, nor am I a big fan of Ray Sears coming out in the first inning of a game to talk to a pitcher. I don't understand why this wasn't covered 2 hours ago. You knew Yadier Molina was in the lineup. I mean, preparation is one thing, but you have to be able to have some retention, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, you might not have said, okay, in the first inning, Molina's going to come up with runners at first and second and 2 outs. It may not have been that detailed, but you knew that there was a possibility that he could come up with runners on base, in scoring position, and how you want to pitch to it.
And Yachty pops it into the seats.
So video is part of it, meetings are part of it, but at some point you're your own coach on the field, aren't you? I mean, you got to know that, okay, I picked up the paper today and I'm pitching, and Yadier Molina is pretty good. He's on this team. How am I going to pitch to him? I better have kind of figured that out. I know my own strengths. I know his weaknesses and his strengths, and you've got that game plan going in. I would think that that's part of what pitching's all about.
Well, I probably told him that there is a base open. It happens to be third base, and you've got a struggling hitter on deck. Molina with his very good penchant for driving in runs.
Now the Cardinals medical team out to check on Yachty.
Looking at his arm, his wrist.
Forearm or something, right?
Seemed to shaking that out after that swing. No balls and one strike with two down. Two on and the 0-1 pitch. 0-2.
Didn't see any issues on that particular pitch. Seemed like a pretty free and easy swing from Yachty.
Big gap in left center as the right fielder Garrett Jones, normally at first base, occasionally in the outfield, awfully deep in right for Molina.
I would think that this young left-hander would have more success pitching away to right-handed batters.
And the reason why?
Just because it's so difficult for guys to get in, to your glove side. What really separates good pitchers, that ability to pitch on both sides of the plate. But the easiest one should be able to throw to your arm side, in this case outside.
Lined and caught down at third by Alvarez. That takes 2 RBIs away, and the inning is through. Pedro Alvarez leads it off when we come back. This is a serious number. You can score any size coffee, fountain, or frozen drink for just 50 cents at On the Run at Mobile. Shelby Miller and the Cardinals back out for this top of the second inning. I want to remind everybody, because Al and Rick have had a significant part in the growth of this, and it's a lot of fun. The fantasy camp registration will start tomorrow. Cardinals.com/fantasy camp. So we have the commissioner and the camp ambassador with us here today, and always a lot of fun. So again, Cardinals.com/fantasy camp. If you run a business or clients, those kind of things, what a great way to have a life experience down at the Legends Camp in Jupiter, Florida.
Folks still buzzing about the days that we had down in Jupiter this past January, and looking forward to next year.
Again, you said something there about corporate, and I had a businessman tell me, he said I can take a client to golf and maybe I can talk to him for 5 hours. But you take a client to the fantasy camp, you've got 5 days.
And it's any level player, men, women, even priests. We've had priests down there.
Oh, we've had a couple. Yes, we have.
Here's a 1-1 pitch to Alvarez.
We have some great men of the cloth that we always encourage, especially on a Sunday. Don't quit your day job. And Terry Rush, I'm talking about you.
And I know he's watching, Al. Huge Cardinal fan from Tulsa.
High strike. Alvarez didn't like it. And that is number 3.
Well, they're set up inside. You don't want to go down and in. But look at that. That ball, that late movement, kind of tailing right back to the corner. Up and in's a pretty good place to pitch most hitters.
And the ball hops for him, doesn't
yes.
it? I mean, you could see it on that last pitch. That last 4 feet before it got into the hitting zone, it kind of had a little hop to it. And that's why he's a swinging miss guy.
And you follow it up with a nice breaking ball.
That's taken a little bit low. Russell Martin came through Pittsburgh. He was hitting below 100, and things have changed in a hurry for him. They love his defense, and the offense starting to come around. 3 home runs, 6 RBIs. And it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. 95 that time by Shelby.
And I think a lot of people kind of wondered about Westbrook yesterday. Through 6 shutout innings. After 91 pitches, he was pulled. You know, sometimes we'll wonder if there was a physical problem we're not aware of. We understand that was not the case.
A high fly ball lifted into deep left center field. Shane Robinson is back, and that is gone. 1-0 Pittsburgh. Russell Martin on a 1-2 pitch. Hits his 4th home run.
Very interesting in that at bat. They started him off with 3 curveballs, and when he finally threw him a fastball, he got on it, fouled it off, and then they tried to come back again with a fastball. This one, not a good location, kind of up and away, and now homered in back-to-back games, and certainly seems to like that fastball.
And that's 4 home runs in his last 10 games. I was going to say that obviously Mike Matheny had great confidence his bullpen were going to close that game out yesterday, and some people question whether you were going to take him out because Alvarez was the first hitter and he had great success against Westbrook. But in the 2-0 lead, he couldn't tie the game. But also it puts a lot of pressure on the bullpen coming in with a runner on.
Breaking pitch taken for a strike. 1-2 on Brandon Inge.
Certainly something, Al, the Cardinals are going to have to manage around until the bullpen gets back on track, is how long do you go with your starter?
And goodbye. Couldn't pull the trigger. Strikeout number 4 for Shelby Miller.
Rick, I'm bounce this one off of you. And I talked to Dan a little bit about it. maybe you go back to old school, and whoever Mike pulls out of that chute, he goes as long as he's being effective instead of going inning by inning. Yeah, maybe you wouldn't be able to bring him back day after day, but maybe you would have one guy that goes a couple innings if he's being effective, and even if you wanted to take him out for the ninth, as long as you have the confidence in Mojica, which Mike does, and rightfully so.
You're eventually going to need those guys anyway out of your bullpen, where you can go more than one.
John McDonald, 1 ball, 1 strike. Mentioned the injury to Barmas, so he's been dealing with that. Walker's been having some issues, and McDonald a chance to play today.
Go for his last 10. He came to the ball club right at the beginning of the season from Arizona. Guess it was late in spring, 3/20, March 20th. For a player to be named later or cash considerations.
Tardy with this swing. And the 1-2 pitch upstairs. Showed the graphic earlier of the ERA in the first 5 starts as a Cardinal. One of those starts was last year in September against the Reds. And today it's start number 5 of the season for Shelby Miller. And clearly McDonald is having issues trying to catch up with this fastball. 2-2 the count.
That's 2 curveballs in a row that Shelby Miller has not pulled down with the right release point. He's kind of been behind him and underneath him a bit, and it's just a matter of making that adjustment, and you just hope you make it kind of soon enough. And the problem when you make that adjustment is you don't want to just do a slight adjustment and then hang one. If you hang it way up in the zone, nobody's going to hit that, but that next level is much more hittable when he comes back with the fastball on the fist.
And also work on that breaking ball, because it will become a key pitch for you as the game goes along.
Gonna need it.
Mike Matheny in his second year as manager, we showed Clint Hurdle on the other side. He's going for win number 700 of Clint Hurdle's career.
Many years with the Rockies and now with Pittsburgh. A fly ball that's hit out to right. Catch made by Beltran. For Clint Hurdle this season, his catcher every day, Russell Martin. He connects and has given the Pirates a 1-run lead. They are in the playoffs and have home ice advantage for the first round. And Fox Sports Midwest, Bud Light, and the Blues present outdoor playoff rallies before every home game. Enjoy bands and a great pregame party. Plus, our Fox Sports Midwest announcers will lead the pep rally from the stage. Blues playoff pep rallies before every home game. Birthday boy David Freese, and he looks at a strike.
David 0 for his last 9.
Lined out on Friday night. You may remember that first at bat. He hit a screamer to short, and then after that looked a little out of sync, and that has been the way things have gone to start his season. Not much of a spring training and really playing catch up. And tough to do that at this level.
Well, when Jim Hayes gives you a candy bar as a birthday present in the pregame show, I mean, things are looking up. Maybe that's a turning point for David.
The 2-1 pitch.
David wasn't quite sure that the cat really bought that.
Can't blame him. I wasn't either.
Knowing the Cats as well as we do, it's hard for us to believe he paid for it too.
Agreed. Cardinals are going to need David Freese, though, not just on an average point of view, but also his power. Both he and Alan Craig yet to homer, and that's going to happen at some point, but haven't seen it yet.
How about picking up line drives? How about the 3 line drive outs in the first inning? Jeff Locke is not fooling anybody. All 3 of those outs in the first were hit very hard.
Here's Shane Robinson, average at 190. Cardinals still waiting for this offense to collectively come together. And let's be honest, the Cardinals are not going to hit 340 with runners in scoring position all season, or 370 with runners in scoring position and 2 outs all season. So you're still expecting this offense to be much better than we've seen so far. Short lead at first by Freese. They'll check on him.
It's really a fact about any major league season. You can't expect the starters to do what they're doing all season long. You can't expect the bullpen to be as poor as they've been all season long. They're going to get better, and that's part of being a team, is finding ways to win when one facet of your game isn't working.
Big gap in left center. That's it out of play.
And you have big problems in your ball club when one facet of the club starts pointing fingers at the other. You win as a team, you lose as a team, and it's really nice to say that rarely did we ever see, it was a me attitude in the clubhouse. It's all about us and we.
Saw the shot there of Adam Wainwright. 31-year-old will go tomorrow. He has wins in his last 4 starts. And last time out, it was Tuesday night against Washington, 8 1/3. And Mike Matheny telling us it was a short conversation, but not an easy one at that point to lift Wainwright from the game. So his stuff is getting better and better. Here's a double play ball, 4-6-3. So 2 down, and it brings in the 8th place hitter, Pete Cosmo.
Another hard hit ball.
Ball was hit hard, and Brandon Inge, the second baseman, gets a little shovel pass.
Hyundai replay here.
Even that, you're so far away, you try to be firm with your toss, where sometimes it's easier, it takes a little more time, but you can make up with a quicker throw, harder throw, overhand. Pete Cosmo with a 6-game hitting streak. The 311 hitter here at Busch Stadium in his young career.
Kind of quietly just getting the job done, isn't he? Especially defensively. Only 1 error so far for Cosmo.
Play good defense. Whatever you get from him offensively is a plus, just a bonus.
And he lines out weakly to first, and the Cardinals are through. We jump ahead to the 3rd. St. Louis trails 1-0. MLB.TV celebrating 11 years. And join the millions of fans and subscribe right now. Watch every out-of-market game live online on your favorite mobile devices, all in HD quality. MLB.TV. Shelby Miller is allowed a home run to Russell Martin. And that is the only scoring so far in this ball game today. Happy birthday to Earlene Vowell. Earlene and her husband Larry have been longtime season ticket holders, so happy birthday to Earlene.
Longtime participants in the fantasy camp. And Earlene always comes with her much older husband Larry.
2 balls and no strikes on Jeff Locke. Underway here in the 3rd inning. (3-0). And he walks the pitcher. So something we haven't seen a lot of from Shelby Miller this year. The walks. Not a ton of those, and that is just the 8th that he has issued this season.
Miller not happy with himself, kicking the dirt on the mound as we speak. And look, to me, the last couple of pitches, Al, he was just guiding them. You know, you get into that mode and you say, okay, I know he's a pitcher. He's 1 for 16 career. He's not going to hit me. And you just kind of just try to guide it in there, and you don't really finish the pitch.
I've been there when you know a guy's not even going to swing.
Sometimes
how difficult.
That's worse.
Yeah, you know it, and you still can't throw a strike.
Following the ball game today, the Pirates depart for Milwaukee. That'll be their final stop on their 3-city 10-day trip. 1 ball, 1 strike on Starling Marte. He singled and was left stranded back in the 1st.
And overcompensated on that last delivery.
Speed pitch, 1-2.
Better curveball there. He finished it. Still up in the zone a little bit more than it should have been, but as Al said earlier, it's going to be a pitch that he's going to need before it's over to really help set everything else up. They just have to know he's got it.
That's part of it.
Could be 2. Carpenter flips to Kozma. Double play. 4-6-3. It's one of those that Matt Carpenter might have been able to take by himself, step on the bag and throw, but more times than not, he has made the right decision, and Kozma shows off the arm. 4-6-3 on the double play.
And a good thing Miller doesn't get involved in this by knocking it down in the first place, and it gets to Carpenter. There's the flip that Al wants, about chest high, shoulder high. Kozma able to just kick the bag, and he's got a very good arm. And that's the one thing about, if you can flip it to the shortstop, he at least has his momentum going in that direction. But I agree with you, Dan, that Carpenter probably could have taken that by himself. Either way, it works.
I don't think he would have been able to get the double play with Marte's speed, because he wouldn't have had much on that throw. What I said is Kozma coming across the bag with more momentum behind him.
2-0 on Jose Tabata. Tabata struck out swinging first time up. Looks at a breaking ball low. 3-0.
Saw Molina motion to him after that curveball that, yeah, that's the one we wanted, because he got it down in the zone.
And the second walk in the inning. So 2 walks. The first was erased on the double play, and here's Garrett Jones lined out to left. 0 for 1 today.
We've mentioned it before, but real kudos to the Cardinals development system, the minor league system. We look at the Pirates, what they faced defensively with the Cardinals deep in the outfield for Garrett Jones. To be able to develop somebody like Shelby Miller, who's not just coming up and helping, he's coming up and impacting. I mean, he's a big deal on this team right now, and you have to credit John Vooch and all the scouts and minor league development people, the coaches, the minor league level for developing him to be a frontline player, not just a number 4 starter, number 5 guy, but a guy that can be a real impact performer.
0-1 pitch by Shelby, and Jones lines it into right, and that will go to the wall. Tabata on his way to third, and he will stop there. The Cardinals catch a break as that ball scooted away from Carpenter. Beltran was getting it back in quickly. Runners at second and third with 2 outs. Extends the inning to Gabby Sanchez.
See this ball develop. You know it's going to be a double. You know runner's going to end up at second and third because Nick Leva can't assume they're going to mess up that relay throw. He's assuming that you're going to get there. So 2 outs. He's off to the races. Tabata will come around here. Then Nick Leva will hold him up there. They see the ball get away, but Nick Leva couldn't see that or couldn't assume they were going to mess it up. And the ball get by the initial cutoff man.
Ooh, almost to the backstop. A pitch at 94 from Shelby Miller. This is Gabby Sanchez, struck out his first time up. To follow up on your point, Rick, Neil Huntington, the general manager of the Pirates, was saying the other day when looking at the Cardinals, but he said about his own guys, he said you have to figure out where they are in their career path, and hopefully you're making the right decision to have Marte, Pedro Alvarez, those types of players, because if not, you can bury them. And he said the Cardinals have done a tremendous job at letting guys develop. Nick Leva, the third base coach of the Pirates, was mentioning this on Friday. And the Cardinals have done a tremendous job with their young players, but also teaching them the right way to play the game. And Nick Leva would know.
And the Pirates are also thinking about this because they've got a couple of really good prospects, a couple of pitchers that they're having to make that same decision with. What's too far, what's too fast. And you don't want to panic. You want them to develop because you want them to be game ready when they get to the big leagues as much as possible. And Nick was saying the other day that you do a lot of teaching at the big league level, which you didn't used to do, but you still want them to come to the big leagues and not be overwhelmed.
They had their first round pick last year, represented by Scott Boras, a big right-hander that pitches for Stanford. Some believed he would have been the #1 overall pick. He dropped down to the Pirates. Pirates take him. They offered him a tremendous contract. It was turned down, so they were the only team that did not sign a first-round pick a year ago.
Garrett Cole and Jameson Tyone are the names, and they're names that we're going to know before too long.
Here's a 1-2. Mark Appel, I believe, is the name of the Stanford right-hander.
And the thing when I look at it is what really sets the Cardinals apart is they develop. You got 9 guys on the field right now wearing Cardinal uniforms. 6 of them were signed by the Cardinals and developed. 1 more came to the Cardinals in a trade but played in the minor leagues and got here as David Freese. Only Holiday and Beltran are the only ones that didn't originally sign with the Cardinals or go through the development of the minor leagues. And to do that when you're always talking about a championship caliber team is even that much more difficult. You could have a whole team of prospects or suspects
that aren't very good. I mean, just because you're young isn't necessarily a good thing.
Here's a 2-2 pitch to Sanchez. Chop to the left side. Backing up, making the play. David Freese. The Pirates strand 2. And the Cardinals will have Shelby Miller, Matt Carpenter, Carlos Beltran due up. The chairman of the board of the local Autism Speaks chapter has joined us here in the booth. And first and foremost, welcome to the booth and welcome to our broadcast. Obviously, when you think about autism, this is something so important for so many parents and families. How did you get involved with this, and how does it tie into the Cardinals and Major League Baseball?
Autism Speaks was an organization my wife and I got involved with probably 10 years ago. We have a son who's 16, who's on the spectrum, was diagnosed at the classic time. He was 2 years old. And Autism Speaks has been a great place for us to be in the autism community, working on research, advocacy, awareness.
Here is Shelby Miller. He'll lead things off. And I know you're excited about Cardinals Care, Major League Baseball, and really trying to make a difference for folks like yourself and the families that are dealing with young ones that have autism.
That's right. We've been very fortunate to have the support of the Cardinals as an organization since we started here in St. Louis 10 or 11 years ago. And baseball, for some, is very important. We have a boy who's on the spectrum, and caring for him can be difficult. Baseball was a way for us actually to relax. Tricia, my wife, would work overnight, and I'd need something to do to keep my wits about me, and watching Cardinal baseball ended up being an important part of it. And we have two other kids, one of whom is a huge Cardinals fan. So we've kind of grown up with autism and the Cardinals.
Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but in hearing the stories of those that have little ones with autism, what they know now about autism 10, 12 years ago, as opposed to what we know now, it's light years difference.
The
Can
difference.
You explain that a little bit?
The difference is profound. The amount of research, the medical and education professions have become so much more aware of autism, how to deal with it, how to diagnose it. It has been profoundly different. When Trish and I had Will diagnosed over 14 years ago, we literally were handed a card and told, here's an agency that you go to for help. Good luck.
Wow.
Now, if you're diagnosed, Autism Speaks, for instance, has a 100-day kit, which you can immediately access and try and figure out what you're going to do in terms of education and health care.
Here's a ground ball that is hit to second for the first out off the bat of Shelby Miller. And just looking at some of the numbers here that were emailed to me, autism now affects 1 in 88 children and 1 in 54 boys. And when you think about autism, there's different levels of what families deal with. And I know that's a broad spectrum, and this may be a tough question to try to answer, but how do you know if your son or daughter has autism and then what level they're at?
Well, you're right. It's a very broad spectrum, and what you typically see in an autistic child or a child with autism is an inability to interact at an age-appropriate level. Habitual behaviors are also common, but it typically presents itself as your child goes from 2 to the point in time they enter the school system. Dan.
Wow. Bill Bolster is with us, and the local chapter of Autism Speaks. He heads that up into shallow left center. Over the shoulder catch, and what a catch it is. McDonald takes a hit away from Matt Carpenter. What a play here with that number 17 is back to the infield, and he makes the play. What a tough catch this is. And the left fielder coming on, and then the concentration to make that play for the second out. For folks that are listening to this, parents, how do they get involved, and also maybe donate money, all the different things that we'd like to raise awareness about today?
It's really easy. Go to autismspeaks.org, and you can make your way to the St. Louis portion of the website. We have a walk every fall during October. We actually have a Chef's Gala that's coming up on May 2nd. And, of course, the Autism Speaks website is also a wonderful place to pick up information about the disease and get help if you need help.
The Chef's Gala, where's that at on May 2nd?
Four Seasons.
So that should be pretty good.
It should be. We've put a lot of work into it. This is the second year we've done it. We've been very fortunate with the support of chefs from around town and the Four Seasons this year. Really looking forward to it. It's a fun night.
And again, give us that website, maybe a phone number as well.
It's autismspeaks.org, and then I'm going to blank on the phone number, Dan.
That's okay. Go to autismspeaks.org.
Yep.
Autismspeaks.org. Look at McDonald. This is his inning. Nice plays. He takes a hit away from Carlos Beltran. Again, Bill, best of luck.
Dan,
God bless
thank you very much.
And thank you very much for coming up here. AutismSpeaks.org. AutismSpeaks.org. And again, that Chef's Gala, May 2nd. 1-0 Pittsburgh. Pedro Alvarez leads it off against Shelby Miller. Alvarez struck out on a high strike his first time up. Clint Herta was talking before the game that with young players, you just got to have patience. We will try to ride out the slow start here, Pedro Alvarez, like we did last year. And if there's anybody that knows about high expectations put on a player, it is Clint Herta. You may recall he was the cover of Sports Illustrated. And the quote was in the cover, "This year's phenom." And Clint wound up with a career of 32 home runs. So it wasn't quite the phenom that many thought.
And I was with Kansas City when Clint was trying to break in and had that spring with him being on the cover. Not only was he trying to learn a new position at the major leagues, but he was trying to replace John Mayberry, who was a power hitter, and he was more of a gap hitter. But it was a trying time, and he went up and down the ladder for several years before he ended up having a pretty nice career.
And goodbye. Alvarez strikes out, caught looking. That's 5 strikeouts for Shelby Miller. And we know we've got some news concerning the Cardinals bullpen, and hopefully it's good news with Jason Mott. More on that. Here's Jim Hayes.
Yeah, Dan, Jason Mott is stepping things up as he attempts to come back from the elbow strain. Jason threw for a second straight day today. Threw with a little bit more velocity and pushed it back from 35 to 60 feet. He says the elbow feels really good right now. But at this point, it's all about how the elbow reacts. But so far, so good, guys.
Jim, when you think about what Mike Matheny and the Cardinals are dealing with, they've talked about a deadline of May 1st. Now, that was a deadline given to the media, but yet they're going to be very flexible with that deadline of May 1st, aren't they?
Yeah, well, if it needs surgery, they want to do it so he's available next season, but it's a soft deadline. And if he's making progress, Jason said they will push that date back a little bit, and right now he's making real progress.
And here is Russell Martin, who homered, and Jim makes a very valuable point as Martin hits it out to deep right field. Beltran looks up, and it's off the wall. He plays it perfectly. Hits the fencing in that wall and right. Well, Jim Hayes, we know, is constantly at work, grinding to get the latest scoops. And there he is, Red Bull in hand, I believe. And okay, we're talking about Mott's swing maybe. And okay, what else is going on? Well, I did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's Mr. Hayes getting the top scoops. Jim, you're all over it.
Sometimes I got to bribe him with a Nutty Buddy. You know how it is, Dan.
That's how it's done. That's how it's done. Here's Brandon Inge with a runner at second. Fastball and a strike. But Jim's point of, you can't wait that long. And he's right. If he's going to have surgery, speaking of Mott, it's got to be done sooner than later so you can hopefully have him at some point next year.
Well, anytime you talk about a pitcher's elbow, and this would be a similar case, I'm hopeful, but I'm not very optimistic.
As Inge pops it up, that'll find the seats behind the Cardinals dugout. 0-2 the count.
Big difference between playing soft toss 35 feet and trying to come out here and pitch against the best hitters in the world.
But if there's a silver lining in that report, it's no issues and trying to at least take a positive from this situation. And as Jason said, he hasn't aired it out. So time will tell, but we are creeping up on that deadline, the soft deadline of May 1st. Nothing into the count on Inge with 1 out and a runner at second base. Big gap in left center as Carpenter's trying to keep the runner close at second. Good pitch on 0-2.
Really finished that curveball. Inge has been swinging the bat pretty well since his recall from AAA. Veteran infielder, when he first came up, he could hit. He was just an average guy hitting the high 200, so close to 300, and then he just really fell off the map and had a hard time making contact. Bounced around a little bit, getting another chance with the Pirates.
Most of his time in his career spent with Detroit, also a little time with the Oakland A's, and now with Pittsburgh. As you mentioned, he's a valuable guy coming off a bench because he can play first, third, second. They say if they needed to, they could put him in the outfield. He's also been a backup catcher before, and he's done that all at the major league level.
Well, this is the third time he started at second base, and prior to this year, he'd only played that position 5 times in his career. But the more positions you can add, especially catcher, you can stick around a long time.
The 2-2. Saw that shot of Clint Hurdle. He has seen some losing seasons with the Pittsburgh Pirates. 2010, 105 losses. 2011, they thought they really had turned the corner. They were 53-49 on the 25th of July, 2 games out. Then they lost 12 of their next 13. Last year, as late as August 19th, 67-54. And then they stumbled to their 20th consecutive losing season as Shelby really took something off that pitch. And it's strikeout number 6. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Schnucks, your neighborhood hometown grocer. And the Chipotle Chicken Club combo is back for a limited time at Jack in the Box. Try one today with fries and a drink for just $4.99 plus tax.
Remember, last 2 times, remember they had 2 years ago, they had that marathon game against the Atlanta Braves and
the bad
call at home plate. And then last season, we had something like a 16-inning game against the Pirates. They end up winning that game, but then they went in the tank again.
I guess it begs the question, what kind of depth do you have in your organization that when you do falter, are there those that you can at least trade to get major league guys, which they did do a couple of years ago. Remember, they got Ludwig and Derek Lee, and that didn't pan out. But you know, the Cardinals went and got Mohican, stabilized their bullpen. They've had young players that have helped them along the way. It is a long season, as we all know. Runner goes on the 0-1, and it's popped foul, 0-2 on John McDonald.
Pirates trying to win with some of those second line guys right now, including the starter today, Jeff Locke. We saw Jonathan Sanchez. Well, we saw him for a short time in game 1 of this series and saw him in the rained out game in Pittsburgh. But they've got some starting pitching down the road that's coming back, including Charlie Morton, who's pitched very well against us at times. And Karstens has been out. Francisco Liriano is a start or 2 away from rejoining the team. So some of their kind of expected frontline guys they'll have back. We'll see what kind of depth they can provide.
Cosma charging, plugs, throws, and makes the play. The Pirates strand a runner. They've stranded 4 today. Shelby Miller with 6 strikeouts. 1-0 Pittsburgh. AT&T. Which division leader is the biggest surprise so far? Braves, Rockies, Royals, or Red Sox? And really all have been somewhat surprising, maybe with the exception, in my opinion, the Atlanta Braves. And that is your AT&T Twitter poll.
Well, we would expect Texas and St. Louis, that they were both predicted to be league leaders, but of those other four, certainly some question in that. And I'll be interested to see who people are most surprised by. I mean, the Red Sox are off to a very, very good start. They're 10 games over 500. They've got the best record in baseball right now, and the Colorado Rockies are 15-9 and played very good at home. And the Royals, of course, leading the American League Central right now, and Detroit, Minnesota, and Chicago a few games behind them.
Here is Matt Holliday against this lefty, the rookie Locke. Cardinals had some hard hit balls early on, and since that time Locke has gotten, I hate to use this, but locked in. By the way, both you guys played for various managers. How much of a difference? You have to have players. You've got to have guys that can win at this level. That's clear. But how much difference can a manager truly make? I mean, we're looking at a guy in Bobby Valentine that the players from the outside looking in didn't want to play for. And now all of a sudden they're 10 games above 500. So, Rick, I'll start with you. The difference of a manager.
Well, there would be those in baseball that would say, in fact, some managers would say this. Tony La Russa, I've heard him say it, that managers don't really win games, but they sure can lose them. And I think when you're managing, you're not just managing the game. We tend to focus on what pitcher do you use in what situation. And frankly, that decision that's made really turns on how well the player actually performs. And you may have the right guy in the right spot who doesn't get the job done. So the manager really can't control that. It's still the player's game. The player's got to do it. But if the manager doesn't manage people well, and you've got turmoil in your clubhouse, 6 months is a long time to travel with 24 other guys when you don't like your manager and you don't like each other.
Second walk issued by Locke. We're at Busch Stadium on the final game of this 3-game set. The Pirates and the St. Louis Cardinals. Dan, Al, Rick, and Jim with you. And the Pirates have a 1-run lead thanks to Russell Martin. Here's Alan Craig.
Well, I think what Rick said is precisely the right answer. The manager can only win you a handful of games, but he has the potential to lose every game for you. Just not putting in the right decisions, but everything a manager does is predicated on the success or execution of the players. Now, you never ask a player to do something that you always try to put a guy in a position where he's doing something he's capable of doing, and you try never to put him in a position where he's something you don't think he can succeed at. But you can make all the right moves, and if the guys have a bad day or something like that, it doesn't show up.
And the coaches have to understand the same thing. Back to your comment about John Mabry dealing with all of the hitters. I mean, there's 15 different guys with 15 different approaches that you don't want to have one approach. I mean, how does Alan Craig hit the best is different than Shane Robinson. So we're not going to have an organizational approach to hitting John Jay. You wouldn't teach somebody the batting stance of John Jay, but that's how he does it naturally. How do we get the most out of what he does with that particular style? That's what coaching's all about.
And it's one of the great second-guessing sports of all of them. If not the number one. I mean,
well, we were doing it yesterday.
A perfect example. Exactly. Westbrook, 91 pitches, 6 shutout innings. He comes out, and then you had Kelly and Rosenthal. It took them 44 pitches to get through a 4-run seventh. You know, and the question is, do you take Westbrook out at that time?
And if Kelly would have come in and gotten 3 outs with 5 pitches, Mike Matheny would have looked like a genius.
And you know, Mike Matheny made that move because he believed the bullpen was going to close that game out and give the win to Westbrook and solve some of the problems that you have in the bullpen, ease everybody's mind there.
Here's a 2-2 pitch. You know, after the 7th inning, I didn't like the move.
Right.
After the 7th.
Yeah,
Right.
I got you.
I just want to make sure you guys know that.
You went on record, huh?
I'm on the record.
In fairness,
After the 7th.
In fairness, there were people that didn't like it when it was happening.
Sure.
And that's
Yeah.
what makes it. There is not one way to do it, and there are other factors. And you look at yesterday's game. Westbrook has had a number of games where he's thrown 115 plus pitches early in the season. He's gone deep into games, and maybe this is a good time to get him out while the getting's good against a team that tends to hit him well. I mean, there's some factors in that.
I'm sure that was part of the equation.
Nobody considered the fact that he was 1-7 in 13 games against the Pirates. Nobody considered the fact that Pedro Alvarez, who was the first hitter for him in the 7th inning, bats like 600 against him.
All factors.
And if you're going to make a change, if you got one runner on, you were going to him out of the game. Sometimes managers say, I'll clean up for the bullpen and make it easier for him, start fresh.
The first strikeout for Locke this year. Fox Sports Supports is proud to partner with Stop Out Bullying, leading national anti-bullying organization for kids and teens in the United States. Stop Out Bullying focuses on preventing bullying and all forms of digital abuse, educates against racism and hatred. Please visit stopoutbullying.org. And we are wearing our pins today in support of that, as well as our autism pins. And we've got a couple on today. You may have seen those in the open. Also, you see it on the postgame show. Jim Edmonds will be with Pat for the postgame later today. As Yachty drives one into right field. It's well hit. Going back, it's Jones. He was playing deep. And he makes the catch. Back to first goes Holiday. Don't miss St. Louis's very own Andy Cohen from Bravo TV. He'll be at Busch Stadium on Friday, May 10th. Take home your very own Andy Cohen bobblehead. Special theme tickets are on sale now. Get yours only at cardinals.com/BravoAndy. That's cardinals.com/BravoAndy.
Does a manager make a difference? I think about Whitey Herzog, who Al and I both spent time with and played for, and went to visit Clint Hurdle before game 1 of this series, and Nick Leyva, guys that he was connected with. You'd be hard-pressed to tell me he didn't account for some victories.
Sure.
Over his career, and that's why he's in the Hall of Fame. So you can make a difference as a manager, but again, it's a player's game. You can prepare David Freese for this at-bat all you want if you're John Mabry, Mike Matheny, Benji Molina, but right now it's up to David Freese. Period.
So much of the decision to bring in Mike Matheny was about how he could handle men. They felt that he was a guy that, as you mentioned, Ricky, you got 25 guys, and probably before it's all said and done, 30 to 35 going in and out of your roster throughout the season. How do you manage them collectively?
Well,
and the Cardinals think Matheny was the right guy.
And anybody that leads people well understands that when you've got 25 people that you are leading, some of them you have to kick, some of them you have to hug, some of them you have to yell at, some of them you have to
do all of them.
Think it through with, and exactly, and even that's not the same every single day. It's just part of understanding people.
Even when David Freese is taking pitches right now,
off balance.
Yeah, he just does not
Defensive.
seem to be locked in. Clearly, he's at 190 his average, no home runs, 3 RBIs. One swing of the bat, though, could change all that. Short lead at first, and the 2-2. Couple of hops hit to second. Inge flips to short. And the Cardinals are through, and we jump ahead to the 5th. It's Locke, Marte, Tabata due up. Booth question. John in O'Fallon, Missouri. What is wrong with the bullpen so far this season? And a lot of different ways you can look at it. The bullpen clearly has been a sore spot to begin this year.
Oh, the summary of it for me is there's just too many guys not making good pitches. It's not that it's not the right personnel or that they don't have the right tools. They're just making too many bad pitches. A lot of problems with fastball command here yesterday. And you can't command your fastball. The other pitches don't really help you out as much. And again, I don't know that it's drastic changes. You're going to throw 10 pitches in a game, Al. You better throw 9 of them exactly where you want to, or you're going to have a bad day.
Well, think about this. 2011, we had all kinds of problems in our bullpen. 2012, we had problems in our bullpen. But I will say this. Back then, we had guys that, really didn't have power arms, or guys that you said, okay, he can't make it at this level. And you traded them off or released them or whatever. The guys that are down there now have plus arms. There's nothing wrong with their arms, and it's something that they had a couple of games in a row. They could straighten it out, and then you're not so concerned about it. So it's something that is very fixable.
Strikeout number 7 for Shelby Miller.
You have the wrong people out there. I agree with you, Al. That's a different question. Then you got to start looking elsewhere, and I don't think it's that. I really don't. We've seen success. Mitchell Boggs probably the best example of that from what we saw a year ago. We know and he knows what he's capable of doing. And in his short inning here yesterday, Mitch pitched to 2 batters exactly the same kind of delivery that we saw a year ago, and just dominated. And he made good pitches, and then he didn't, and he got into trouble.
Marte trying to bunt, and Freeze running in makes the catch for out number 2.
Thank you.
I think we all, or at least most of us, and I'm in this group, are enamored with velocity. And when you see Rosenthal and Kelly come in and throw as hard as they do, it's fun to watch. However, we're also seeing at this level that doesn't matter. So you've got to change your approach a little bit.
There are a lot of guys throwing as hard as they are that are in AA and AAA. And the reason they're there is that they don't have command yet of their pitches. And I'm enamored with guys making good pitches. I think that's how you win.
And that's what I was saying, that some of the guys we've seen in past years didn't have the plus arms. So you just knew that they probably weren't going to be able to correct what was going wrong and be successful. These guys all have the ability to be successful if they get their mechanics straightened out, if they have get their heads straightened out, and I mean by that just having some success so they can build some confidence.
Here is the 0-2 pitch to Tabata, taken low and away.
Danny, the guys that didn't have plus arms or don't have plus arms or plus stuff, there's no margin for error. You have to be perfect. Yep. And every pitch, you can't make that one mistake out of 10 pitches. They have to be 10 good ones.
That's pulled foul.
And if you have a plus arm, sometimes you can get away with bad location, just blowing it by someone.
Right. But not for long.
Not for long. Or not against the real good hitters.
Tabata was picked up, you may remember, for the Xavier Nady Damaso Marte deal. New York Yankees back in 2008. Came up with Pittsburgh in 2010. Last year played in just over 100 games, 3 home runs and 16 RBIs.
Just look at Tabata, Presley, guys that came up, did really well. Tabata got rewarded with a 6-year contract, and he's been riding the bench now. Presley down in the minor leagues again.
2-2.
Sometimes a wake-up call is going back to the minor leagues and figuring it out. You'll figure it out a lot quicker down there because you want to get back.
Shelby Miller is closing in on finishing up 5 innings of work, and that pitch count awfully high at 91.
Yeah, a lot of deep counts, and all the strikeouts you mentioned, Dan, have kind of elevated that pitch count, but uncharacteristically a couple of walks, and they came in the 3rd inning where he was kind of a little bit erratic with his fastball. even walked the pitcher that inning. But for the most part, good outing so far.
The fly ball lifted to deep right. Beltran back, looks up, and it's gone. On a 2-2 pitch, Jose Tabata, his first, as he points to the bullpen with that first home run in dramatic fashion. Of course, that's why you want to point to the bullpen. Jeez. And it's 2-0 Pittsburgh.
Well, it is his first. And the guys that are accustomed to hitting it, they just put their head down and run around the base like a pro.
Hyundai replay, opposite field home run. So 2 home runs today for the Pirates. And both have come with 2 strikes. One was on Martin and the other on Tabata. And a base hit into center field on a pitch that was up. Cardinals would love to get Shelby through this inning and then see where it goes from there. He is due up third.
Middle on location.
Up around Beltai and hit out. Allowed 3 home runs now in the year, 2 in this game.
Strike taken by Gabby Sanchez.
It's been a strong point for the Cardinal staff all season. That's just home run number 15 collectively.
And that's with 2 home runs here. That's 7 off the starters, 8 off the relievers.
Oh, and 2.
This may be one of those games, Dan, where you have to ask 4 innings to your bullpen. Still only 2-0.
And a ground ball chopped to short. Force play at second. Sanchez retires. Shelby gives up his second home run of the day. Both solo shots. 2-0 Pittsburgh. mere moments. It's decision time again here for Mike Matheny with Shelby Miller, who's due up third here in the home half of the fifth. Right now, no activity in the Cardinals bullpen. Guys are stretching, but nobody throwing. And when the Cardinals try to stretch Shelby, one more inning, he's around that 100 pitch count.
Looks like Salas is going to start throwing here.
You could conceivably go along with the inning and see what situation Shelby Miller finds himself in. And if there are a couple runners aboard, you could also bunt with Miller, who has had 4 successful sacrifice bunts. He's done a good job at that. But if 2 outs, nobody on, I wouldn't be opposed to giving Miller one more inning.
Correct. Now, if you had guys down there that were lights out, then you go to your bullpen. But right now, it's just kind of a sore spot. He probably does have enough bullets left to throw one more inning.
If it's second and third, nobody out, Shelby Miller's up, he's out.
Right.
Now, that's my opinion, and that's what's great about baseball. You mentioned it earlier, Dan, is, we can look at it later and say what he should have done, but Mike Matheny's going to have to make that decision here in about 5 minutes. And everybody's going to have an opinion, so we kind of invite everybody to say, okay, what would you do right now? Don't tell us later, tell us now.
Yeah.
Does Shelby Miller hit or not? 91 pitches.
And I'll put this scenario in there, 98 pitches. Put this scenario in there that how about 2 solo home runs, or Shane get on base and then a home run by Cosma, but that just went down the drain.
Second strikeout for the lefty Locke. And taking a look at what the Cardinals have done against A.J. Burnett, the team is hitting 136. The other starters prior to today, a little different story. 20 runs scored, 2-0, 267 average, and the 3 home runs. So Cardinals have had success outside of A.J. Burnett as Pete Cosma drops in a base hit into right.
Okay, now what do? You can't wait. You got to decide right now. 1 out, 1 on. Shelby Miller's spot. Mike Matheny's made his choice.
I have no problem with it.
I'd like to see him go one more inning.
Agreed. So that's what we vote.
A couple things why, and Dan, I'm going to read your mind.
Wait a minute, let me back up.
That
Thanks.
One, you want to teach these starters that, yes, you go deep into a ball game. 5's not good enough. 6 is just barely good enough.
Bunt is down, and Martin will make the play at first. I like what Shelby did there. I don't know if you guys picked up on it. Got the bunt down, realizing that Martin had to make that play. He kind of slowly went out of the batter's box and made sure that was just enough time to get Cosma down to second. Very slow out of the box.
He's flexed, gets the bat, and it's out in fair territory, so the bunt is there. But see, you've got to slow up a little bit just to make sure you can kind of make sure Russell Martin can't throw to second base, or at least give Cosma enough time to get down there. And with his speed, it would have been too risky to throw to second.
RBI opportunity now for Carpenter. 2 outs, runners in scoring position. This is where the Cardinals have been the best in baseball. As Carpenter is 0 for 2. Reached on an error in the first, and then a terrific play by the shortstop McDonald. Is back to the infield with a catch in shallow left.
Cardinals batting .370 in this situation. Runner in scoring position and 2 outs.
0-2.
Pitch that you want to take that anyway. And remember, we also say Carpenter's not afraid to hit with 2 strikes. I don't know what it is, but when Shelby Miller starts a game against the Pirates, Cardinals offense just shuts down. Remember, Burnett in Pittsburgh threw the one hitter. Here's a two-hitter by Locke. They'd get a little more success off of Burnett yesterday, but he was the winner in that game.
Here's a 1-2 pitch on the outside corner, and a strikeout of Carpenter. Tough pitch. 3 strikeouts for Locke. Charter high-speed pitch of the day from both sides. Jeff Locke at 92 and Shelby Miller at 96 for St. Louis.
I thought we got away from these young left-handers that just foil the Cardinal offense.
The Cardinals this year 4-1 against lefty starters.
I remember last year they had a good record against left-handed starters.
Pedro Alvarez is 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. Al, do you remember Mike Schmidt's rookie season?
A little bit.
No, he didn't
like
hit
202.
Right, and I think it may have been even below that,
yeah.
But right around that 200 mark. I found it interesting that, not to say that Pedro Alvarez is going to turn into Mike Schmidt. We're not saying that at all. However, Clint Hurdle will point to Mike Schmidt all the time when he says, you know, they wanted to run him out of town in Philly, and all of a sudden, you know, we have a guy off to a brutal start, back-to-back years, and we're not going to run him out of town. But we've got to stick with him and show him that you can play at this level. You are our third baseman of now and the future. And again, he said, I'm not comparing him to Mike Schmidt, but they wanted to run him out of town in Philly. He said it's human nature. I hear the fans in Pittsburgh. But we're going to stick with this guy because he gives us a good shot to win when he's right.
Well, I think the one thing they've come to accept is he's probably never going to hit for a high average. And maybe in that 250, 260 range, but he's going to be a run producer. Going to hit a fair share of home runs, and he'll drive in some runs, and that'll keep him in that lineup. And he can play pretty good defense.
Easy to have more patience with a guy with big upside.
So walk, and now it's fouled back and nearly into my lap, and I'm sitting next to 2 major leaguers, and those 2 were crawling under the table, and yet I didn't even move. Didn't even move. Edmonds is standing behind Rick, and he was ducking. He started to run.
It's the worst jump I've ever seen Jim Edmonds get.
I mean, that was unbelievable.
The ball was right there,
locked in.
Hey Jim, a couple left hooks to stop all that.
To who, Rick?
Don't give him any ideas.
And a couple left hooks will stop that. And if you get on top of him, I'm helping you.
Let me back up a bit.
Oh,
again.
I know you're that
Locked
sucker
in.
punch on the side. Don't claim any. It was about the closest we've had to hitting one in the booth. It wasn't that close.
You were running, Al. How would you know? Right underneath the table. Bam. A little scared. Mr. Mean Mad Hungarian. Until the foul ball comes back.
Keep talking, Bill.
Uh-huh. I got Ricky between us. I feel good about it. Ooh, just missed outside to Martin, who is homered today. 2 balls, 2 strikes, nobody out, and a runner at first.
Don't ever worry about left-handed relievers not sticking together.
Exactly. Teammates. Can't we just all get along?
Big Cardinal fan, Courtney Hitt. Very appreciative of Rick's commentary throughout the game. 6-4. And can they get it? Yeah, it's a double play. Craig, the nice pick. 6-4-3 on the double play. Now for a limited time, you can get 2 bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits for just $3 at McDonald's. Fans enjoying the game from Big Mac Land here at the ballpark. And it brings in Brandon Inge. Cardinals have turned 2 double plays today. That combination up the middle. Inge has struck out twice, 0 for 2.
Shelby, 110 pitches. Double play was very important for him.
Here's a 1-1. 1-2. The 2-2 is a base hit into center field. Salas has been up and throwing again in the Cardinals bullpen. For a St. Louis sports fan, this is your dream job. You could be the next Fox Sports Midwest girl. Log on to foxsportsmidwest.com for details and the chance to be the next Fox Sports Midwest girl. Salas coming on with 2 outs and a runner at first. It's our Chevy Cole to the pen. That's it for Shelby. And 12th, well, Saturday, 25,000 fans, ages 16 and older, received that beautiful Mike Matheny pink jersey. And then there's also the floppy cap presented by Diet Coke and Schnucks. That's at Mother's Day weekend, May 11th and 12th. And tickets available right now at cardinals.com/promotions as Fernando Salas is into the ballgame. John McDonald. McDonald with a fly ball out to shallow left. Holiday can't make the catch. Going to wave the runner in. Relay to the plate and safe. Mike Matheny hops right out of the dugout. He's at the top step. No argument right now from Yadier Molina. Little hesitation in rounding third for Brandon Inge. That hesitation nearly gave Holiday that slight opening to make the play in the relay by Freese.
And Nick Leyva doing something eventually as we look at the dive for Holiday actually overreached a bit, but Nick Leyva doing something that Jose Oquendo does. He wasn't waving him home, but he was verbally telling him to go to try to deke the Cardinals into thinking that he wasn't going to try to score in the close play at the plate, and I think they got the call right.
I agree. His foot crossed the plate ahead of the tag. Nick Leyva very aggressive there, but there are 2 outs, and you got the pitcher spot coming up, so he really had to send him there. McDonald, first RBI of the year.
This one a little easier for Holiday off the bat. A lock. He makes the catch. Another look at that play at the plate. Brandon Inge making it 3-0. Nick Leyva sending his man to the plate. Out or safe? What do you think? Good call. What's on Tap is presented by Budweiser. Come your way at 6:30 with the pregame show. Matt Latos gets the start. And for whatever reasons, at this ballpark, he has struggled, whether it be with San Diego or now Cincinnati. It's Wainwright and Latos. Latos 1-0, 2.16 ERA. And Wainwright looking for his 5th consecutive victory. He's 4-1.
Rick, you see any reason why Locke has been so successful today?
Just looks like your average garden variety left-handed pitcher to me. Nothing special about him. He's not making a lot of mistakes over the middle of the plate, although that pitch kind of middle in, not a good spot. Beltran clearly just taking that pitch. Not an overpowering guy, that's for sure.
Beltran hits it out to left, and the catch is made. And Carlos 0 for 3 today. The third time through this lineup. Let's see if the Cardinals will see a little different approach from Locke and make the adjustments. He has struck out 3. He's walked 2. And the Cardinals only 2 hits today. They've been out hit 8-2, and they trail 3-0.
Holiday has not been retired. He's 1 for 1 and a walk.
Such a long season, the ups and downs of a season. You're feeling good about midway through the game yesterday. The Cardinals have a lead. Westbrook is cruising along, and then all of a sudden it's another comeback victory for the Pirates. The Pirates are making a habit of that. They trail in the 6th or 7th inning of their games on this road trip. They've won 4 of those. And here they are up 3-0 on the Cardinals here today.
And you can see, too, where Locke really has not been able to get inside successfully on the right-handed batters. So he predominantly leaving the ball out over the plate. But he's the one with only 2 hits allowed.
Mixing and changing speeds just enough. He's been up and down, so changing that eye angle to the hitters. Seems like the Cardinals have been a little late on the fastball.
And like Rick said, you know, there's nothing exceptional about his fastball. His curveball isn't exceptional, but he has been successful in his pitching approach.
Gets him to wave at it. Holiday strikes out, and that's 4 Ks today for Locke. As we turn to our Twitter poll presented by AT&T, asking you about the division leaders so far. What's the biggest surprise? Braves, no one's surprised. And the biggest, it's the Kansas City Royals. A lot of people believe Kansas City gets into postseason play this year either by the winning the Central Division, but most believe they're going to be the wild card winner of the American League. And winning again today.
It's a long season.
My vote on that would have been the Red Sox. I'd have been in with that 3%. I thought they would really struggle, and they still may before it's over. In the American League East, that's a tough division. With Toronto getting better, Tampa Bay's always good.
How about Toronto? Yeah, they made key trades, and they look like they made dramatic improvement, but they're in last place again.
And there's a base hit for Craig out to left.
Third hit for the Cardinals, and all 3 of them are singles.
Brings in Molina. Lined out in the first inning. That was at third to Alvarez with 2 runners on after the visit. And then he's also lined out to right.
Tried to get in on him that first time, and he hit a rocket down to third. Last time it was a pitch away, he took to right. See the spike of his fingers on the knuckle curve. Probably the best pitch he's thrown inside all day to a right-handed batter.
Back to the point we were making about the Cardinals bullpen, he's making pitches.
Out in front, chops it to short, force play at second. That will send us to the 7th inning. Just 3 hits allowed today for the young lefty. 3-8-1 for Pittsburgh, 0-3-0 for the St. Louis Cardinals on this Sunday afternoon. Lazy day, and it's our Head and Shoulders strikeout package here for Shelby Miller. Racked up a bunch of them, also racked up a pretty high pitch count along the way. Head and Shoulders strikeouts for Shelby Miller. Derek Lilliquist, the Cardinals pitching coach, looking on. Some changes for St. Louis as Jay is in center field. And Shane Robinson shifts from center to right. Carlos Beltran out of the game. Starling Marte lines it foul. Marte with a single. He chops it back to Salas. Sometimes you see the errors between the white lines, and also we see some errors made by the fans. Let's take a look here. Yep, line them up. Oh, it's like Horton with
bobblehead down. Yeah, but there was some intent.
Yeah, that one was total
accident. Intent. You had the intent.
That's kind of what I meant.
Break my neck.
It's kind of what he. Now, your bobblehead is turned into a real life bobblehead that Rick has made because
a voodoo doll.
Yeah, his neck is hurt all the time. And, you know,
it's actually a muñeco cabeza de resorte.
Cuidado.
That's how you say bobblehead in Spanish, evidently, according to the internet, which is always right.
Figured you got that from Twitter. Jose Tabata is the hitter. Tabata with a home run back in the fifth. Big gap in left center. Here's a 1-2 pitch. Rick loves the opportunity to be able to connect with those on the internets and Twitter.
It's another way to follow the game on social media.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. By the way, who won the Hungo, Al, on Friday night?
Mujica.
Good choice.
Could have gone to Beltran, but I thought
strikeout.
What Mujica did, getting the 3 saves, was kind of get us going in the right direction here at this homestand.
Don't forget about those college nights and our first of the season coming up this Tuesday against the Reds. Get a Loge level ticket and a free Cardinals tank top. That's the first college night this Tuesday. Cardinals and Reds. Cardinals.com/college to pick up those seats.
Sounds like Jim Hayes should model that on the pregame show tomorrow.
There's a high fly ball lifted into deep right field. At the track near the wall, Robinson leaps, and it's off the top of the wall, at least that back area. No, they're going to say the top of the wall. It is not a home run. So that will be a triple, and I'm sure they're going to review this.
Glenn Hurdle out of the dugout. He's going to ask for it to be reviewed. The rule says that a manager,
he doesn't even need to. They're already going to review it themselves.
They say they're not allowed to ask, but they are.
And it's a home run. Right here, you'll get a better look, and you'll see it's over the first wall.
Oh, yeah.
Well off the. scoreboard there, and this will be a quick review.
But that was a good example of how difficult it is to be an umpire, frankly. I mean, those first two views, we saw it, we went, I think it's a home run. And then that third view was much more definitive. For them to be able to get that right is, an educated guess on their part.
Yeah, and I would think that listening to the sound of the padding of the wall, interior wall, or off that scoreboard, the little auxiliary panel that's up above the concrete wall and the padding, you would think it'd have a different sound.
The way this is done, by the way, is that there's a quote-unquote the war room in New York, so they have a single area that is representative of Major League Baseball watching our game. They see the feed, and they take a look at the various camera angles that we provide, and then they basically make that call from New York. So they will rule this a home run, I'm sure, and for Salas, it'll be the second home run that he's allowed.
Now, on that particular play, if you're an umpire and you're not 100% sure, aren't you better off just saying that it's safe and in play, and they get the call right? But if you call it safe and it is a home run, we just do what we're doing here. If you call it a home run and it's not, then what do you do? Now
And the umpire did do that. He gave the signal of safe.
Right, but wouldn't you always do that?
Sure. Which makes sense. Nissan drive of the game. It's the third home run hit today by the Pittsburgh Pirates off the bat now of Garrett Jones.
And you were
Nissan
saying
drive of the game.
Yeah, you were saying, Al, how long it's been since.
That was 46 bats coming into today, and 49, and he could start a new string of at-bats before he hit a home run.
You think about the starters. They have 3, the Cardinals do, with an ERA that's under 2. You've got Lance Lynn, who's 4-0 and who struck out 34 in 5 starts. You've got Garcia, who very easily could have 2 more wins if not for the bullpen. So the starters have been exceptional to begin this season. And many times, we're not trying to pick on the bullpen, but it is the reality of it right now. 7th inning or later in games, the Cardinals have led 19 of 23 of those games. I mean, think about that, 19 of the 23, and they come in with 14 wins. So it does give you an indication that the Mott injury is big and how it's had a trickle-down effect with everything else.
Yeah, if you just go the last time the starters went through the rotation, they allowed just 2 earned runs in 33 2/3 innings of work. That would have been a 0.53 ERA for that one time through the rotation.
Strikeout here for Fernando Salas. It's been a quiet day here at the ballpark. Gabby Sanchez strikes out. It's time to stretch. Cardinals trail by 4.
playoffs, and Fox Sports Midwest wants them to win it all for the fans. For every Blues playoff victory, a lucky fan will win an autographed street pole banner. Enter at the Fox Sports Midwest Facebook page, like the page, and click the Win It All tab for your chance to win. Enter today for your best chance to win. Go Blues. 4-0 Pirates. Jeff Locke, left-hander, 2-1 on the season, has been very good here this afternoon. Only 3 Cardinals hits. And he'll face David Freese, Shane Robinson, and Pete Kozma in the Cardinal 7.
All right, we spotted them. 4 runs and 6 innings. Now it's time to go to work. David can give himself a birthday present here.
Pirates had a big 7th inning yesterday. Why not return the favor here today? Off-speed pitch misses, 1-1. Pirates have flexed their muscles here this afternoon. 3 home runs. Russell Martin, Garrett Jones, and Jose Tabata. Ground ball to the left side, and this is going to go foul. And it's picked up by Alvarez. Really an awkward swing by David Freese there.
Almost flat-footed, reaching for the ball, trying to pull an outside pitch. And David can go to the opposite field so well and drive the ball with power to right field.
You know, Al and I stepped out of the booth to change our luck.
I had to talk Dan into staying.
Surprised Ricky didn't try to lock the door.
How do you know I didn't?
I had to beat it down. Now, there are some locks on doors around this level.
So we've heard. There's a ground ball to second. Freese. His struggles continue. David is 0 for 2 today with a walk.
There's your lock that matters.
Yeah.
Again, nothing overpowering about this left-hander from New Hampshire. Came over from the Atlanta Braves in a trade and just made good pitches so far today.
Robinson taps it out in front of the plate. Russell Martin. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Here's Pete Kozma. He has one of the 3 hits. Pitch count at 91. And the thing you got to remember, guys, is that Pittsburgh, their bullpen, has been a bright spot for them in the first month of the season.
Very good bullpen. Anchored by Grilly, who leads the National League with his 10 for 10 save opportunities.
You know, if that disclaimer is not in front of me, I just go into panic mode. And you would think after 16 years of reading that countless times, I would have it down by now.
I get that, though. There's a lot of 4-syllable words in that you don't normally use, Dan. I think that's why.
Got it.
More than that.
Yeah.
Ty Wigginton on deck. The inning is extended here. Kozma has extended his hitting streak to 7 games. And Zepchinski is warming up in the Cardinal bullpen. Notice where apparently Chris Heisey of the Reds got hurt and they expect him to go on the disabled list with a bad hamstring.
Kozma drives it out to right field, but it's caught. Tail back into Jones. Midwest. Let's go to our studio and a Bomberito sports update. All right, Pat, thanks. As Salas continues to pitch in this ball game, and the first pitch of the 8th inning is grounded to first, and that's off the bat of Pedro Alvarez. A reviewed home run, and you may remember, it's either last year or the year before, Michael Morse of the Washington Nationals had the grand slam, I believe it was, reviewed.
Kyle Loesch was pitching.
Right, and they brought him back, and he did a fake swing without a bat and then trotted the bases. That was odd. Didn't see that today, though.
Justin Wilson looks like he'll come in and pitch the Cardinals' 8th. Jeff Locke, outstanding. 7 innings, only 3 hits. Walked 2, struck out 4. 7 shutout innings. Last time out against Philly was 6 shutout innings.
There's a strike at the knees to Russell Martin. Martin got it all started against Shelby Miller with a solo home run back in the 2nd inning.
He's really locked in right now. There's no question he's seeing the fastball well. Very aggressive at bats.
Fly ball lifted to center. John Jay, plenty of room. 2 away. We're at Busch Stadium on this Sunday afternoon here in St. Louis. The Mad Hungarian, Al Robaski, Rick Horton, Jim Hayes, Dan McLaughlin with you, our entire Fox Sports Midwest crew. Pat Paris and Jim Edmonds coming up on the postgame. Two outs. And a 1-0 pitch to Brandon Inge.
Al, you were talking earlier about a Cardinal reliever that could be a multi-inning guy. You'd have to put Salas in that category along with Joe Kelly as the most likely candidates to be that kind of pitcher that can go more than just that 1 inning, and that's certainly what he's doing here today.
And I like the fact, of course, we would have preferred the offense was strong enough that he would have had to been pinch hit for already. And this will be his last inning of work because his spot is due up first.
The 2-2 to Brandon Inge.
Remember earlier, Joe Kelly was kind of being the long man and he wasn't pitching. And he missed the entire homestand, and he had a couple times where he pitched once every 8 days. And then all of a sudden they've inserted him into the sort of the 7th inning spot. And now he seemed like he's pitching every day. That might have caught up with him a little bit yesterday.
Seems like those roles take a while to develop. You can say the guy's to this guy, to that guy, but you have to earn it, and you have to kind of perform into it. I'm just not sure that's been established yet. Certainly hasn't been established yet, and I think Mike's going to tinker with it a bit.
So a walk to Inge. With 2 down, 4-0 Pittsburgh. It's not like this game is completely out of reach, but you look up, it's a 4-run lead, which is certainly a game that you come back and make this interesting. But the Cardinals have just 3 base hits today, and they've been singles, so you're not seeing a lot of jump out of this offense.
No, and those roles are ever changing because of the ineffectiveness of some guys. You go in there with a game plan, and it's a real good one if they all execute. But Dan, you made a point. I heard you on the radio this morning that, with the fact with relief pitchers, it's kind of hit or miss. Some guys, they go, it's not like they have the consistency. You'll have good years, bad year, good year. And that happens frequently out of the pen.
Yeah, the question was about the bullpen, and you guys are no better than I, but you talk to coaches and managers and scouts and those that make a living out of trying to put together a roster, and they'll tell you the hardest thing to do is a bullpen because, for instance, Boggs, career year last year, this year struggling. There's not a lot of consistency. Some guys you feel you can count on, others you're just not so sure. It's off the end of the bat, and an easy play here for John Jay. So Salas keeps it a 4-run lead for Pittsburgh. Cardinals need to get the bats going. Young lady said, don't walk away because you have to get your Carlos Beltran bobblehead. That was the giveaway today, the Klondike Moment of Glory. And we give it to Carlos Beltran because of what he's done in this series. His bobblehead day, he gets the Klondike Moment of Glory. Couple of home runs. 10th time he's done that from both sides of the plate. On that list, he's tied with one of the players, the great Mickey Mantle. Barmes is at short. McDonald moves to second, and the lefty Wilson is into the ball game, and it's part of our Chevy call to the pen.
It's 2-0. Good ERA. Left-handed batters are over 10 against him. He'll get the Cardinals pinch hitter, and it's Jermaine Curtis. Made his major league debut last night as a pinch hitter.
And Al, you were on it last night. He really didn't seem to be ready for that at bat like he was told at the last minute, and that's in fact the case. Mike Matheny pinch hit for Matt Carpenter in that 8th inning, and had to make that decision late because the side was bothering a bit. But it's been nice to see Matt Carpenter play a full game here without any issues.
Be a lot nicer to see Jermaine Curtis get his first major league hit. Wouldn't mind if it was a home run either.
Here's the 0-2. One ball and 2 strikes. Backhanded by McDonald, and he has played some kind of defense today. You go back to the 3rd inning when he was at short, made the play over his shoulder, back to the infield, also a sliding play on a ground out, and then this nice play here.
Every time I think of McDonald, I think of the play when he was with Toronto with Alex Rodriguez, where Alex Rodriguez
as a runner called for the ball. And
I got it.
And McDonald, the defensive player, backed up, and he didn't realize that it was A-Rod's voice. Now, you're not allowed to do that, but A-Rod did it anyway. And he was hot, and he should have been. And A-Rod was very unapologetic about that after the game.
It's a little late, though.
Why? Well, let me ask you something. You mean to tell me there's a rule that means the base runner can't try to deceive a defensive player?
Yes. With a verbal signal, you cannot make a defensive call. Yes.
Never knew that. I thought everything was free game.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah. I might tell the dugout next time I pitch an old-time game, the opposing dugout can't yell at me.
No, they can do that.
Oh, they did.
First plate appearance for John Jay.
Some of them haven't stopped, Al.
Truth hurts.
0-1 pitch. 0-2.
Left-handed batters are 0 for 10 against this young left-hander, Justin Wilson.
A-Rod also had the play as Wilson was walking out the mound. Remember when he was running up the line? I think it was Bronson Arroyo was pitching at the time for Boston. Knocked the ball out of his hands, and then they later overruled that play and called him out. But that's just another play that you just don't do that. Activity in the Cardinal bullpen. There's Boggs. We saw him pitch last night. Also saw him
yesterday.
Yeah, but Friday, I believe.
He wants to work, doesn't he?
Yeah, he wants to work. And
well, that's what Mike Matheny said. He was asked after the game on Friday, how do you get Boggs going? He said, look, he just needs to pitch. That's how he's going to have to work himself out of this. He said that answer very matter-of-factly.
And he did pitch yesterday, a scoreless inning. Got 2 quick outs and then ran into a little trouble, but they did not score upon him. So build from there.
Crowd today of 41,470. 41470.
She is tweeting Dan McLaughlin right now.
I'd hate to see what she's writing.
Didn't look that unhappy with her complaint.
I think she'd like to see some offense is what she'd like to see, and we've been focusing so much on the Cardinals bullpen woes, which I think is legitimate. But I'm sure that young lady would be a little bit more attentive to the field if the Cardinals could get a couple of hits strung together here.
Pretty good at bat here by John Jay.
Soliciting for votes for the All-Star team. You vote for me, I'll give you a souvenir baseball.
The 2-2. This lefty can throw hard. He's hit 96 a couple of times. Last pitch at 95.
Justin Wilson became the 4th International League pitcher and the first since 1946 to be involved in 2 no-hitters during the same season.
Here's a 2-2. Pittsburgh off to Milwaukee. Cardinals welcome in Cincinnati tomorrow. Cardinals will have Wainwright going against Latos tomorrow.
Since he's leading 5-2 in the bottom of the 8th with Nats threatening.
Wainwright, Latos game 1, Garcia, Arroyo game 2, Lynn and Bailey the day game, and that will be on Wednesday.
be about double figures now in this at bat, isn't it?
I believe so.
12 pitches.
As you mentioned, Dan, a good at bat for John Jay. He's really starting to see the ball a lot better. Had a hit again here yesterday. 4 for his last 8. And getting that deep count, I think, is an indication of seeing the ball better and spoiling off some good pitches against the left-hander.
Now, what are you going to talk about? The guy has a terrific at bat. You got 2 outs. Just get the next one. And they were able to do that without Ray Search going to the mound.
We're picking on Ray earlier. Dear friend of mine, I should add. Former teammate, but Ray has done a nice job with this Pirates pitching staff. They've had some turnover the last few years, and they just keep rolling out some good numbers collectively as a staff, especially what they're doing in the bullpen. Jason Grilli could have been had by a lot of people a couple years ago, and now he's a guy with 10 saves.
I mean, Rick, he was out of baseball.
Yeah.
Well, he was injured and missed an entire year. And then he went to spring training with Phillies. Was on the AAA team and had a clause in his contract that if he wasn't taken to the big leagues at a certain date, he could opt out. And he did and returned to playing for Clint Hurdle. Clint had him earlier with Colorado. He's done a good job for him.
There's a broken bat and foul.
Mark Melanson pitched well here last night. He's been their 8th inning guy, and he's had a very good start to the season. He gets loose.
Seen that swing from Holiday a lot today, even against their starter. Just hasn't seemed very comfortable, a little late with those swings. Now that pitch was mid-90s, but against Locke, different story.
Matt's not afraid to try to shoot one on the other side, and they're playing him to pull on the infield with the first baseman covering. That's where he hit one in that hole last time.
There's another broken bat. And it's 4-0 Pittsburgh after 8 innings of play. Just 3 hits allowed by the Pirates today.
As we head to the ninth in St. Louis, coming up after the game on the post-game edition of Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live, Pat Paris and Jim Edmonds standing by. The Cardinals can't find the key against Jeff Locke. They'll look at why. They'll break down Shelby Miller's afternoon, plus we'll have Mike Matheny's post-game thoughts as well. Mitchell Boggs comes on to pitch for the Cardinals. We head back to the booth. And Dan, Rick, and Al, guys.
All right, Jim, thank you. Our Chevy called to the pen, the right-hander Mitchell Boggs. Throw it out the window, those stats. What do you see here, Rick Horton, with Mitchell?
Still reacting to Jim saying that we couldn't find the key to Jeff Locke, which I thought was just wonderful explanation. But talk about trying to find the key. Mitchell Boggs is looking for that, and he's got to try to find a mechanics and a delivery that is where he was a year ago when he was outstanding. I think we saw that some here, a glimpse of it here last night, where he started out just throwing the ball downhill towards the plate with a lot of downward movement as opposed to side movement, where he was getting flat with his arm, flying open with his front shoulder. And again, it's just a matter of repeating it. Can't make mistakes at this level. Another good delivery there at 96.
I think we all would agree it's still there. I mean, he's throwing 95, 96. He has hit 97. Even the other night, he had great sink and movement. Just a matter of consistency and probably much of it, if not all of it, confidence.
And of course, when you get a chance to strike somebody out, and it's going to be one of those tough foul tips for Molina to hold on to.
There's a degree to which confidence is built on reality, however. And if you're having bad experience one after another, you could say you're going to have confidence all you want. But then you're just hoping.
Little flare and a base hit.
Oh, boy.
He is out of that. Happened to him time and again. Get you caught up with what has happened here today. AT&T Uverse Rewind. The storylines from today: Locke, the lefty, the rookie. He was their minor league pitcher of the year a season ago. Very good today. 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs. Garrett Jones, 3 for 4 with a homer. Shelby Miller, 5 2/3. The 7 hits, bunch of strikeouts, 3 earned runs.
Go back to the base hit, and that pitch was up. And if it's down, it have that good sink and probably doesn't, get it elevated to where it could get over the infield. Probably just a ground ball out.
Starling Marte, top of the lineup, singled back in the first, grounded into a double play. He's popped out trying to bunt and also grounded out his last time up in the 7th.
Of course, you're trying to get at least a 5-run lead where a grand slam can't tie you, but 4-0 in this ball game.
It seems like 14-0.
Yeah, it does. And
we saw that here last night too, Al. The Pirates had that 4-run 7th inning, and at the time the Cardinals were batting in the bottom of the 7th, it seemed like such a huge lead, really just 4-2 at the time. But the Cardinals offense really not on track here against the Pirates. They sure were in game 1 of this series, but he scored 9 runs on 13 hits.
Runner goes, and a base hit out to left and a broken bat. Runners at the corners and nobody out.
Left fielder, Jose Thomas.
it's right in the middle of the plate, doesn't it? A start, it was down.
Exactly.
So runners at first and third. Jose Tabata.
sink on that one. Yeah. Nice pitch here. Look at the bottom dropping out of it, swinging over the top of it.
1-1 the count.
Mark Zepchinski backing up Boggs in the Cardinals bullpen.
He is not throwing a lot. So runner goes, and Marte takes second base. Stolen base number 7.
Hit, run, steal here. I mean, it's trying to send a message, but Mitchell Boggs at some point is going to get his stuff back. He may not take exception of some of these hit runs and stealing bases.
Infield and the 2-2 swung on and missed.
Get mad, but stay under control. Use that emotion. See a good breaking ball there. Never was in the strike zone.
First base open, you could walk Garrett Jones, but that takes away a little bit of the margin for error for Mitchell Boggs.
Gabby Sanchez is on deck, and that one tailing away. Good movement again.
Very good. You got that sinking action, but if you start it too high, then it just flattens out. If you get it down around the belt, then you stay on top of it, and the bottom falls out of it.
There's the 0-1 pitch.
There's a little tailing action to it.
Good location again.
Just wasn't close enough to get a hitter to attempt.
Two and 1. 3 home runs hit by the Pirates today. Solo home runs. They've played it 4 and lead it 4-0. Evens it up at 2-2. Full count. Concern for the Cardinals has been Boggs' control. He's hit a lot of batters. The walks have piled up, and that's something that we did not see a year ago. That's out of play.
Mitchell's had some experience as a starter too. Saw him do that big league level. Also did it at the minor league level. And there was a big debate: is he a reliever or is he a starter? At one point, then he was a reliever. Then is he a short guy or a long guy? Then is he 8th inning or 9th inning? And had a shot at the closer a few years ago, but last year really settled in that 8th inning.
3-2 is a foul ball. Put it in perspective, last year he had 78 appearances. The ERA was barely over 2. A total of 21 walks for Mitchell Boggs, and opponents only hit .211 against him. This year already 9 walks, hit 2, only 9 strikeouts, and opponents hitting .349. So we're looking at a different guy than we saw last year. No health issues, but off to a very tough start. Walked him. Bases loaded.
I think we're looking at a different guy than we're going to see 2 months down the road, too. And maybe shorter than that, maybe a month, maybe a week, maybe 3. But the point is, he's not in a good stretch right now. But before it's said and done, Mitchell Boggs is going to be an important part of the Cardinal bullpen.
Mitchell Boggs was invited, and the only Cardinal player to be invited to play on the Team USA in the World Baseball Classic.
Strike at the knees to Gabby Sanchez. See the pitch count, his workload. He's been busy this weekend. He's at 17 last Sunday. That was that meltdown game, Sunday Night Baseball against the Phillies. And then he's been busy here against the Pirates. Little chopper, slowly hit. And the only play across the diamond as a run scores. You think about how the inning started. Boggs nearly had the strikeout, then a little blue pit, and things start to unravel. They're just a little tapper. You know, just nothing going right now for Mitchell Boggs.
Hits it hard. It's a double play ball.
Bud Light, the sure sign of a good time. Here we go. And by Ford, the official cars and trucks of the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals with just 3 base hits on this Sunday afternoon, and now it's Mark Zimchinski into the game. Ninth appearance. 3 walks and 7 strikeouts and nearly 8 innings of work. Another guy that needs some more work out of that bullpen, this lefty Mark Zimchinski.
He's a guy that's also been a starter in his career with Toronto, and there was a decision about him. Does he start or does he relieve? And they used him in the big leagues as a starter for a while, and then he became a left-handed specialist, but he also was able to neutralize some right-handers with his slider and with his changeup.
How about John Gast? Record scoreless streak up to 29 2/3, 7 more strikeouts today for the Memphis Redbirds. Oscar Taveras has hit a home run in that game. 29 2/3 and 29 strikeouts for John Gast.
He's a little lefty. He's got the great pickoff move at first.
Doesn't sound like he's getting a lot of base runners to show off that move.
To show it off.
Good problem to have.
Well, it's nice that the AAA players perform to push the guys in the big leagues. That's part of what happens, and I'm sure we'll see some of them before the year's over.
Base hit out to left, and 2 more runs will come in to score. To be charged to Mitchell Boggs, and it's Pedro Alvarez. They'll tell you he really struggles against left-handed pitching, and the numbers show that as well, but this time he connects against Sepchinski.
It's a Cardinal pitcher, and he missed his location right in the middle of the plate, down in the middle, supposed to be away. Even more injury to Boggs' numbers.
So 2 hits, 3 runs, all of them earned in 2/3 of an inning for Mitchell Boggs.
Cardinal bullpen came in with the worst ERA in the National League. It was 5.52, and it's moving up again.
Martin didn't like that call, but it's 7-0 here in the 9th inning, so not much to argue about.
Starting pitching, relief pitching, and hitting, and I'll just put defense on the side for a minute, which we all know is important as well. But you look at those 3 aspects. If your relief pitching isn't very good for a stretch, you better be really good in the other 2.
Long fly ball, left center, Holiday back, and it's gone. The Pirates' 4th home run of the day, and the 2nd for Russell Martin. The 3-2 pitch. He takes it out of the ballpark.
3 for 5 for Martin. 2 home runs. Got 3 RBIs. Young man makes a nice catch. It would have been a home run.
Justin Wilson at the plate now.
Mark Zipchinski's ERA now.
They get 5 here in the 9th, and it's a 9-0 lead for Pittsburgh in a day in which they rest arguably their best player in Andrew McCutchen. Neil Walker not in this lineup either. It's a very disappointing afternoon here at the ballpark. Two balls and 1 strike.
Look back at Shelby Miller, Al. You'd say, as disappointing as this day is, he wasn't bad. He wasn't at his best, but he was still good. Kept his team in the game. The problem is the Cardinals not hitting made it look worse. He gave up 3 runs in his 6 innings of work, had 7 strikeouts, and you'd say that's close to a quality start. It's not, again, not great, but still like what he's doing every 5th.
If that's
game.
the worst he's going to pitch.
Right. We'll take it.
We'll take it.
3-2 with 2 out.
6 runs charged to the bullpen.
And there it is. Cardinals have just 3 hits. Pittsburgh with 13, and they add 5 more runs here in the 9th. 9-0 lead. The Budweiser player of the game, 95 pitches. The left-hander, the starter for Pittsburgh, 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, walked 2, struck out 4. Budweiser, player of the game. No other way to say it. It is a dud here at the ballpark. 9-0, the Cardinals trail.
I think that's a fairly descriptive word. You only have 3 hits on the offensive side, and really not much to be excited about even with those hits. Matt Holliday had a base hit the other way, came in the 1st inning, and Pete Kozma had a flare the other way in the 5th inning, and then Alan Craig with a base hit, and that's it.
And guys on the other side, if you're Clint Hurdle, you're saying, you know what, our team is starting to come together right now. They're playing very good baseball after what they did with the Phillies. They're going to take 2 of 3 here in St. Louis, and part of this is a 10-game road trip. So they're doing this on the road, and they've turned things around after a very slow start.
Did have a bad start. Clint Hurdle, as Al said, in line to win his 700th game as a big league manager. You know, the Cardinal-Met rivalry of the 80s, interesting thought about Clint. In 85 and 87, we all know who won the pennant that year. He was a Met those 2 years. The year in between, when the Mets won, he was a Cardinal. So 3 years in a row, he was on the wrong team in that rivalry.
So you tell him it's his fault?
I don't say that. No, I do not tell him that. I'm sure he's thought about that before.
Craig pops it up.
And on the other side, it'll be a really interesting challenge for Mike Matheny to manage through this. I mean, this is why Mike Matheny, you mentioned it earlier, Dan, why Mike Matheny was chosen as the manager of the Cardinals, because he knows how to lead men. And he right now is going to be leading some men who aren't very happy with themselves and have good reason.
And Tony Cruz will pinch hit for Molina. Only looking for his first hit of the year, but very, very little playing time.
He's had 4 ABs the entire year. We're about a month deep into the season. Start seeing these fastballs, I'm sure they're looking about 200 miles an hour.
His first one was the Sunday game, final game of the road trip on April the 7th. Then he got 1 start, and that's pretty much it. Justin Wilson, who won, was the winning pitcher in the last 2 appearances he made.
The 0-2. Adam Wainwright, he has to stop a 2-game losing streak. First time the Cardinals have lost consecutive days the entire year.
It used to be a term in baseball which has been kind of, I guess, changed a bit, but it used to call a guy who was a stopper was a starting pitcher who could stop a bad little funk. And now they use stopper for the closer or the guy in late innings. But stopper was a term that was widely used in baseball for a guy that could come out the next day and change the momentum of a team just by what he did as a starting pitcher. And we know a guy that was pretty darn good at that, Mr. Gibson.
You never like to have the knee-jerk reactions in baseball because it is such a long season. But the ERA now, the bullpen, is close to 6. And we're coming up on 24 games into the season after today, and you just wonder if do they want to shake something up here a little bit? What direction you go in? How do you right the ship, so to speak?
Yeah, you don't want to look like you're panicking. You don't want to, do this or do that. But sometimes a wake-up call is good for a team.
And that's the delicate balance and leadership and decision making that is on Mike Matheny's shoulders and John Mozeliak's.
Sure.
And again, I'm not saying you make the knee-jerk reaction, but the numbers don't lie, and this bullpen,
well, you have
about a month in, is struggling.
You have to consider it because it's a results-based game, but there's all kinds of things that go into that.
Problem is, Dan, there's too many guys to replace.
2-2 the count. David Freese needs a hit on his birthday. Something positive here. Cardinals with just 3 today.
And this would be one of those games that is not a game that you're going to point at one player and say, you know what, if he'd have done something different, we'd have won. This is clearly a team loss here today. Doesn't make it feel any better, but Cardinals really have been outplayed in every facet of the game.
Freese hits it to the right side, and this should do it. The Pirates, this weekend series here at Busch Stadium, take 2 of 3. So disappointing afternoon here at the ballpark. We've got the post-game show coming up. We'll also take a look at the next series as Cincinnati is coming to town tomorrow night. Lock the winner. Miller takes a loss. 9-0 our final. Post-game is next.